Welcome to Jesus Before Money. My name is Corey, and I'm happy that you're here. Before we begin, if you could do me a quick favor, just leave a little like and leave a comment. Maybe a stock or crypto or whatever you want me to do some TA on, some technical analysis, and I'll make a video just for you. Okay, today's video is kind of gearing up for next week's earnings, and we have a lot to go through, okay? So we're going to cover Bitcoin, the US 10-year, the SPX, then we'll get into Google, Tesla, Coca-Cola, Philip Morris, IBM, Blackstone, Intel, GEV, Amphenol, and Newmont Mining. Stay till the end for Newmont Mining. I think you'll like that one. Okay, so try to make this video quick. Some people know, actually my Bitcoin, my crypto videos get a lot of views for me anyway right now, which is nice, but we tagged here, okay? We tagged, and then Bitcoin, at the apex of this move, put in a topping tail, and since has been chopping sideways, okay? So now, where's it going? Well, first of all, I'm going to move to a 4-hour chart. Yeah. It's kind of eyeballing this bottom trend line here. Here. Okay. And then this top. Oh, it's a little off. But something like this. Okay. Now this pattern on Bitcoin isn't very bullish. We dropped, kind of chopped up and to the right. You could call this a little, bearish consolidation, inside bar, this drop up, we dropping down, you know what I mean? And so I think we're going to drop again. So I think your next buying opportunity on Bitcoin, or the big test for Bitcoin, is going to be about 13,500. 13,500. Keep that in the back of your mind. If it breaks below 13,500, watch out. But you could get a little bounce here, 13.5. And then after that, as you can see, this upsloping trend line. And the upsloping trend line with this pivot here, right around 12.5. So 13.5 to 12.5. But I would expect a bounce off of this. I would expect a bounce if we get down here around 12.5. On this trend line, I would expect a bounce, and that could be a short-term buying opportunity. Not financial advice, and none of this is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is a hobby of mine, and I'm just trying to educate people. Okay? 13.5, 12.5. Keep those in the back of your mind. Call it 13,000, right? But I really draw this trend line and connect these tops. Here and here would be your buying opportunity for maybe another bounce. Moving on. 10-year yield, I talk about this all the time, right? We were in a 40-year consolidation period before we broke out. And this is the biggest problem, the biggest threat to America is our debt. Let me zoom in. So that's the macro pattern, right? The big macro. The mid pattern is we're in this pennant. You could call this consolidation, but the fact that this pattern is a 50-50 chance really on which way it's going to break. So, but the micro pattern on the daily, right? And what I like this trend line. We broke above, close, so we never confirmed above this. But really, you can almost consider this a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder. Inverse head and shoulders, okay? I'm going to get rid of this bottom trend line, but we can see as we came up, we consolidated in this little pennant, broke out, retested, and now we're chopping up in here, okay? So this 4.42 is a major level to watch. If we break 4.42, obviously we'll be coming in, but we could have a much larger sell-off in interest rates, which could be interesting. Or we just can continue chopping sideways, putting in a bullish consolidation for what would really be a breakout of an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Which wouldn't be good because, obviously the Treasury, it would step in and the Fed at some point, usually about 5%. That's their threshold. They don't let this thing get above 5%. But you'd add about 0.738. Let's just call it 0.7 to say a breakout somewhere here. 0.7 would put us, 5.2%. So the Fed, they're not going to let that happen. The Fed would step in, But the problem is there's just so much debt. So could it happen? Absolutely. But really, this top of this trend line right here, which I keep talking about, 4.65.4.7 would be the next upside target. Okay. So in the back of your mind, what are interest rates doing? Are we breaking above or are we breaking below? Because that's going to help determine which way the market will go, right? The SPX, XPX, talked about this parallel all the time. I really like this parallel, or at least this top trend line, but I think the COVID low is very important, okay? Now, my line in the sand for the SPX. And look at our RSI. We're getting very top heavy here on the RSI. But my line in the sand is this former resistance on these all-time highs before we broke lower. And as you can see, we've been hugging it. Okay. Now on Wednesday, Whipsaw Wednesday, Trump was going to fire Powell, or at least that's what the market was claiming was the problem. And look at this tail. I mean, what happened, and really, and Powell might have been part of it, but this is the 8 EMA. We started losing the 8. As soon as we started losing the 8, we really started to sell. And that's what I've been saying. I said this former pivot, this former resistance here is a major, say it one more time. It's major. If we start breaking below this market can sell quick. And why I say that is because here's the 21 EMA. We are, and I'm on the daily, we are a ways away, okay? So we would find support here, and then if we broke here and confirmed, then now this would become resistance, and we would probably pivot off of that. I'm just long game planning, right? But when you break the 21, when you break below the 21, right? The purple line's the 21, you sell. Market sells, right? And since we're just so extended here, in this extent, so we're up, 30% or so from when Trump told everyone to buy. This says Friday the 4th. I thought it was the 7th. What's going on here? Yeah, it was Monday, April 7th, okay? 30%. So if we break here, I think, obviously we'll find support on the 21. But once the 21's broken, we're going to sell hard. And I really believe right here, 60.25 is where we're going to come back and test. Okay? It had a former all-time buy in here. It's not there anymore. But if we break that, we're going to come here. And then just potentially here. Somewhere on this pivot, which I think is like a 10% correction. 8, 9, 10%, depending on where we go. Okay, so just keep that in the back of your mind. I think a lot of people are starting to say a rollover is likely. Could this be bullish consolidation up here? Possibly, but it could also be a fake out, right? It could also be a fake out. Just be careful here. I'm missing my trend line up there, but anyway, moving on. Google. Let's talk about earnings. Now, Google really, since the sell-off, it's been struggling compared to NVIDIA and others. And the reason, or that they claim, is that you have like ChatGPT and other AI-related companies that are starting to take over a lot of the searches. So that part of their business model might be suffering. Is this all the Google, go Google it. Now go chat it or whatever. Now you got Grok, you got all sorts of things where you can get answers, not just Google. Thing I do want to point out is they keep beating earnings. And then here, this is their net margin percent. This is the gold line has been going up, okay? So Google is still a very strong company. RSI is nearing overbought conditions, and we are in kind of this more bearish wedge here, which looks like we've been going up, but really you go down and you start moving up into a 45-degree angle. It's kind of more bearish than anything. But, if Google, since it's kind of a place where money managers could put money, right? I just thought if it pops, you could see 195 to 200. That'd probably be all the money on Google. Not necessarily just on earnings, but those would be your levels to watch. I'll zoom in. Okay. It's kind of this gap here, the bottom where it closed, and then where it closed here on the top of this little candle. Okay. I like those levels for day trading shorts, and to maybe just start scaling back a position if you're in this heavy. And if you're not into Google, I would draw this trend line here, and I would buy for maybe a little bounce. I would probably just do a day trade. I mean, I don't know. Google just, it scares me. This pattern, this wedge here, like this scares me. But we break out and get a retest, and that's a buying opportunity, right? Because now this would be support. And if you could have multi-factors. But Google, I can definitely see a pop here. Okay? You can see a pop even though it's kind of getting overbought in the pattern, right? If it comes in, it'll come in probably modestly, but down here would be a buying opportunity on this line. All right? All right, moving on. Tesla, I think, is in big trouble. I mean, they're all over the place on earnings, right? Their net margin has been tanking. And I was trying to look here. The volume has not been really high for where we're at. This is a 200-day moving average, this white line on volume. But RSI is right kind of in the middle, 50, 55, a little bit over the midline. The thing I thought was interesting is look at this trend line here. Boom, 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 boom. It's pressing right on here. Just pressing. So, these are my levels. My this level here has been resistance and support. So I'd assume it'd be support again. If not, down here would be a good buying opportunity around a little under 285, maybe 270. But man, Tesla, just for whatever reason on earnings, it's like a buying frenzy. Elon comes out and says he's gonna do something else with his autonomous driving or whatever, but with all the restrictions on Tesla and the loss of the EV credit and everything else, I mean, yeah, the robots would come later, but I think he's got to make something. He's got to come up with something. And he's mentioned that he didn't want to do this in the past, but with Starlink, I think Tesla should make a cell phone. If Elon Musk would just make a cell phone and connect a Tesla cell phone with his Grok AI, right? I mean, it makes sense. A Grok AI powered cell phone that's connected to Starlink. I think that's his move for Tesla. The robots are cool. They're the future. His Teslas are now in a lot of hot water with I mean, if the rich people, depending on which way you lean, and Elon, he made enemies on both sides of the fence. And that Lucid, I didn't want to talk about this, but let's look at Lucid. Lucid. Lucid had a big pop. I mean, they have their new SUV, the Gravity, just came out. And, doesn't look like a lot, but look at this massive increase. Why is my volume? I gotta zoom in maybe. But I think this volume spike here is really killing it. But if you look at the volume here, the volume was really starting to spike on Lucid. Before it had the big pop inside of this this little wedge here, right? And then boom, now it hit resistance on. I'll get rid of some of these other ones. But it hit resistance and it's coming in. But the Gravity is a partnership with Aston Martin and everything else. I mean, they don't make money, so this is a hard buy for me. But if it got back right? If Lucid came back here and filled this gap, you know, to the 240 range, that'd be a good buying opportunity. But I'd wait. But look, you had a bull flag, you had increase in volume and pop, you know. But I think Lucid is going to take a lot of market share away from Tesla for the ultra wealthy that can afford it, right? I mean, Tesla. I think Tesla's in trouble. The thing that's going to save Tesla is Elon Musk needs to be wise enough to realize that he needs to make a phone. I mean, he's a brilliant man. I'm not saying, you know, anything about him, but I think Tesla needs to make a phone. What is he going to say bullish in his earnings call to keep Tesla up? And the thing is, Tesla is trying to break. So I would wait on earnings. I would look for maybe a pop up here, which is only like 5% to about the 367 level. And then any retrace to this line would be a buying opportunity. Okay. Coca-Cola. Just want to talk about Coke. I mean, Pepsi had a huge run. I'll get to Pepsi's chart here in a minute on why that happened. But I mean, really, we haven't been really going anywhere. It's just been hugging. I kind of thought maybe this is a parallel just in case we bust up, looking for a top end target. We also have this resistance line here. Okay. I'm going to get rid of the parallel for now just so we can see it a little more clearly. But I don't really see a huge volume spike. I mean, a little bit. A lot of asset managers like to buy, money managers like to buy Coke because it pays, you know, close to a 3% dividend. And it's a staple. It's not like they're underwater. I mean, look at, they're kind of all over the place with earnings depending on the quarter. But, you know, they do well. Their net income, their net margin does well. Not oversold. You know, probably get a breakout. I would assume Coke's probably going to have a breakout. The Pepsi chart, and I did make a video on this before, but see, Pepsi going into earnings was chopping here, right? Bull flagging, big pop. Plus Pepsi, look at where it was on the chart, way down here, you know, putting in a bull flag. Okay, so where's the buying opportunity on Pepsi? Back to the breakout. You know, if you get back here, that's your buying opportunity. Back to about 136-ish. Okay. But yeah, so going back to Coke. The Coca-Cola Company. You know, really don't have a read. But I'm kind of thinking, you know, probably get a little pop on earnings. Yep. Okay. Philip Morris, moving on. Philip Morris. It's another thing. It's a dividend-paying stock, and you know, a lot of the talk that I heard on the news, not on the news, but like on YouTube from money managers was that, hey, even in a recession, people are going to buy their cigarettes, you know, their cancer sticks and everything else that Philip Morris does. They're vaping. Vaping was a big thing. Vaping's going to boost sales and blah, 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 right? Plus a pay dividend. So, yeah, that's cool. See this parallel. So I've been shopping. I've been looking. You know, RSI's right in the mid, actually turning down. I was looking for this to maybe get up to 200, but this pattern here, you know, this drop, and then this sideways consolidation like this is actually more of a bearish consolidation. So I think Philip Morris is coming in on earnings. Philip Morris looks like more or less is going to come in on earnings, and that it's probably going to catch support right here. Right at this little gap, right around 164.18. I don't think it's going to do that move on earnings, but it'll probably break, come down and test here for a bounce. You know, yeah. Depending on, this doesn't have a lot of volume to be trading this on a day trade. I mean, you can, but it is what it is. The one thing, you know, they do make money, right? They had a hit here. I don't know what happened in Q4 of 24. But they're still making money. They're making money. They're beating earnings. You know, this is a quality company. Price to earnings ratio was getting high in the 40s. You know, it's not a tech stock. So I think that's asset managers heading into earnings have just been trimming it off and probably going to sell off into buyers in the earnings. Okay. IBM. Now I love IBM. Okay. They're AI, they're blockchain, they're quantum, they're a whole bunch of good things, right? In reality, compared to like Nvidia at $4 trillion, they only have a $265 billion market cap. So this thing could still run, right? And this parallel doesn't have to hold. I've just been looking for trend lines. And so this, even if I just got rid of this, right, hid this parallel and just put this trend line on. I don't know what was going on in the 80s, but literally that was like the only thing I could find that, I mean, probably this is like right when this company started popping, this little pop here. Whoop. You know, when the computers started coming out and everything else. But, you know, I just don't think IBM, because of this move, has a lot more to run in the short term. You know, maybe, you know, we pop up to 300. 300 would be a nice psychological number before we get a nice check back. Probably get a check back to the shelf, you know, or something. I don't know, but I would have to believe. Plus the RSI. Look at the RSI drifting down. RSI volume is also been kind of trailing off. I just think IBM is overdone. I think it's overdone, and literally that was the only trend line I could find. So maybe a little bit more upside, but I would assume that money managers are going to be trimming back on IBM. Okay. Obviously, you know, they make money, but their net margins aren't like they're not really, I mean, they're doing well, but their net margin percentage, I really like to see just, if this is going to continue going up like this, I really want to see the net margins going up, right? I'm a net guy. So IBM, I think, is going to have a nice little sell-off. If it could ever get back to this shelf, be a great buying opportunity. I'm not saying it's going to get there, but if it has a big sell-off, if the market rolls over here hard, IBM, I believe, is a stock to watch and to scoop up. Okay? Another stock that a lot of people probably don't know of is Blackstone. Now, why is Blackstone interesting to watch? Is Blackstone is one of the largest like single-family home owners in America. They have a lot of rentals, and really curious to see how their mortgage division is doing. They also, now they started moving into like data centers, but they're also in private equity, and I've heard private equity's kind of has some problems, some warnings. Okay, now Blackstone, the only thing I really noticed, the parallel. I'm gonna hide the parallel. Okay, look at this RSI. Look how high we are on the RSI. We're overbought. Heading into earnings, and if we just look at this trend line here. Here was support, broke. And now we're pretty much retested it and got rejected. Okay? So I think we could kind of hug here, but I think we're too extended to pop. I think Blackstone needs to come in. And it's probably going to start to come in to this support line here. The support line of what looks like an inverse shoulder, head, and shoulders. Inverse head and shoulders, which is very interesting, right? Maybe some data center talk on them. I'm not 100% sure. But, you know, you should see about a $36, $37 move from here. 36, 37, which kind of takes us, you know, I think that's why I drew this line. I think this is ultimately the target, but it's so extended. I think it needs to check back. And I don't know if it's going to get all the way back here, maybe this shelf. But I think Blackstone is going to come in on earnings and then find support somewhere for its next leg up, as long as their rental side of their business is still strong. If that's showing a lot of weakness, then they're in trouble. Okay? All right. Intel. Now, this parallel is kind of suspect, but I was looking for buying levels one time, and I was like, oh, maybe there's a parallel. Maybe we get all the way down here. $4. Yeah, no. I don't think so. So I'll work on that. But I've had that on there. I just wanted to show it. But really, it was this trend line. Boom to boom to boom to boom is where we really started to find support. Okay? And look at this volume. Look at this, the volume starting to really spike underneath here. So you got a lot of people buying this dip. Okay. And the RSI is, up, but not extended. Now, I'll show you Taiwan Semiconductors in a minute. But Intel used to be the bread and butter, and then they fell off a cliff. And they got behind. But when, not if, when Taiwan is invaded by China, the market's going to sell like crazy, right? But Intel will be the company to buy. Because, yes, Taiwan Semiconductor will be, they're building plants in Arizona in the United States, but they're not done. And that Taiwan being controlled by China is just going to ruin them. So if you're doing a pair trade, I think you would short Taiwan in the long run and go long on Intel. And people are going to think I'm crazy by saying that, but I think we're a matter of months. I mean, less than years, but months away from China taking Taiwan. I mean, we're literally saying, oh, no, you can't have AI chips and all this stuff. You can't have the latest and greatest. We'll give you the baseline. But no, you can't have any access to that island you claim 80 miles, a stone throw from your shores that makes 90% of the world's AI chips. Intel's going to have to step up their game. Intel is a buy. Intel is a buy. Look at this volume spike since the collapse. Look at this increase in volume. People are stacking. Remember that Lucid chart? Here, let me just change the Lucid. You can really see it before the increase in I mean, gosh, how do I get down here? You can't see it. These volume spikes really started to kill the average, but this thing was I mean, look at this thing. This thing was really here. This thing was really starting to take off inside of here, right? People were really starting to accumulate. You can kind of see it before the really big pop. On news, I can't even remember, some partnership with Uber. But their gravities are partnered with Aston Martin. The Gravity, the new SUV, is nice. Okay? Is nice. And it's 7-seater, it's very functional, it's nice. I like the Gravity a lot. But Intel, you see this volume spike? People are stacking Intel. They cut their dividend and everything and scared people. But, it is what it is. All right. This is the weekly. Let's go to daily. The daily chart, okay? So this pivot. So I think it would be hard for Intel to break above here. But I think the upside target in the near term is 25.55, this gap fill. But we get above this trend line. Now it becomes support. Maybe we could chop and then push higher. And then push higher. Ultimately, we have to fill this gap at 29.05. So, not financial advice, excuse me, but, and I really don't like this. I don't like these like upsloping pennants like that. Almost like a little parallel, right? But just because it's Intel, man. Look at earnings. They have been doing better, right? They're not making any net. They're losing money. But if they could turn it around or something positive that this thing could really run, okay? I'll just say this. Watch this trend line. I would wait. If we break, I would buy a retest of this trend line. And if we drop on earnings, this 21.18 would be a great buying level. A refill of this a retest of this gap fill and this upsloping trend line, right? I mean, watch it maybe to possibly break, but 21.18 would probably be a decent buying level, okay, on Intel. I think you should. It would probably be wise to start scooping up Intel. Okay. GEV curing cancer. Making me look bad. I was like, yeah, look at this parallel. I have lost money on this thing. My fault. It's okay. But I was thinking that this parallel was holding up, and then it just wanted to whoop this parallel, this bigger one. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off. I'm just going to have this here because look where it tagged and found support. So I'm just going to use this as a support line. And I'll show you this same type of thing in Palantir. Even though I wasn't going to go over Palantir, I'll show you. For anyone who's still here watching. And if you're still here watching, I mean, you're really into technical analysis. But GEV, okay? Now see this upsloping parallel, right? And now we're just really hugging this midline. And I didn't do it on a lot of volume, but this is technically a topping tail that we're kind of retracing. Heading into earnings, this thing is burnt crispy. And this thing is extra deep fried. Sure, it only has a $1.56 billion market cap. They don't really pay a dividend. It's not huge. But look, their price to earnings ratio, 81. I mean, you are paying a premium to get into GEV right now at all-time highs. Extended, I mean, the only other trend line I could find was from April of 24 to here. I mean, maybe we push up to 620. I mean, I can't see that. You know, I think we check back. We're going to have to check back to here. And then ultimately around the top of that other parallel was around probably about $500. Probably going to have to check back to $500. You know, I thought when we were up at the top of this parallel that we were going to check back to 400. We would really have to sell off pretty hard to get back to 400. I mean, the S&P 500 would have to have, you know, probably another 20% correction. So I don't think that's going to happen. My puts are probably worthless. That's okay. You know, you win some and you lose some. But I ultimately think GEV, I would be very surprised if this goes up on earnings. I'd be very surprised. I think GEV is going to come in. Where's a good buy level? I think, you know, right around $500. I think people are going to start trimming back on GEV. Okay. Palantir, PLTR. This is what I'm talking about on Palantir. Is that I was tracking this parallel, right? I did execute a nice put here. And then I actually at 125, I actually put puts right there on that day. And it sold off hard. I mean, I think like, I can't remember, somewhere around 10 grand in one day on one trade. I was very, very happy. This was my best trade. And technical analysis taught me. But then look, and then we started getting, and then we broke out of this thing. But then we've been in this parallel with this trend line here. And I told my buddy, I said, hey, if he owns Palantir. I said, hey, buddy, you might want to sell today. It was at like 155. I said, 155 is probably going to be the top. And then I texted him back and I said, no. It's put in a sell order for 155.69. 155.60. I think this ended up going to 155.69. But look on the 10 minute here. Actually, I'll go to the 1 minute. Palantir started playing this game. 155.69 was the top. Like Palantir put it at head and shoulders on the 1 minute, and I was trying to tell him here, but I noticed that this kind of did like a little cup and handle, so I measured, and I got to 155.60. I said probably 155.60 is gonna be the top. I don't think he sold, but since then we've come down, we broke, and now we're really this pattern suggests we're gonna come lower. But Palantir's days are man. All right. Price to earnings ratio, 672 times. I mean, this company only reports 862 million. They don't even make $1 billion. I mean, you are paying a premium to be into Palantir. When this corrects, I think it's going to correct hard. And, I mean, why wouldn't it? Fear and greed. This is greed, and then the fear comes, and then the profit taking. So Palantir, just like GEV, kind of like these companies that are just way over their skis, and you're starting to really figure out what's going on. It's like, you know, an athlete that just starting to get exhausted. It's going to check back, and we'll find out where it checks back to. And I really think probably, you know, taking a short position into GEV and earnings is probably not a bad idea. Not financial advice. Okay, one stock that I don't know much about, but Amphenol. I'm just calling this amphetamine. I mean, this thing is just woof. I mean, I do remember listening to some money managers saying, "Oh, we're, you know, not sure about the data center build-ups, but we're going to invest in the parts that they need for the data centers," right? And so they make the parts. They make the you know, design, manufacture, and marketing of electronic, and fiber optic connectors, interconnect systems, antennas, sensors, blah, 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 blah. So they're making all the parts for the data centers. But just last quarter, they were talking about how data center buildups were starting to trim back. So is amphetamine just going to continue up? I don't think so. I think it's going to stall. I mean, look at the RSI divergence. The weird part about it is it does look like the volume has been increasing, which is just bizarre. However, this was resistance. We broke out, and look what it has not ever done retested. So I would be very suspect if this stays up in the clouds forever. And two trend lines that I had were these ones. Okay. I started to make these yellow. It's not a big deal, but I'm trying to keep it consistent. But look, this support line broke, and then now we have retested. So we broke and retraced to the scene of the crime. We haven't put in a topping tail. We haven't put any reversal candle in. But the only thing I say is it's going to take a lot more to come here. A lot more energy than a lot less to come in. You know, and then this gap right here, about 85, would probably correspond to this trend line in time. So I'm just going to say right now, you heard it here first. I don't even know if that's 85.54. Let me zoom in. I like to be specific. Be specific. All right. I know no one's watching all these videos. This is really for me later on. So I have like records of my TA and my analysis. So I'm like, look what I did. Look what I said. It's time stamped. Time stamp. Wind it up. All right. I think the next buying opportunity would be 85.55. Institutions are most likely going to trim back. So it's trading at a price to earnings of 49.50. It's getting pricey. They're still beating, so it's going to be like a Netflix. They're going to beat, but probably going to get a sell. And then their net income is, you know, just kind of hovering baseline here around 3.9 billion. So they're making money. They're just over their skis. Expect to check back. Now, drum roll. Hopefully that wasn't really obnoxious. Newmont Mining. It's very interesting, right? So for those who don't know a lot about Newmont, engages in the exploration and acquisition of gold properties. So this is gold, copper, silver, lead, zinc, or other metals. Okay, you see the parallel. So this would be, you know, our upside target in the future. But what I really like about Newmont is that it's gold. I love the gold. I love it. Look at this volume spiking here. Look at this accumulation. The volume's been uptrending in here. Uptrending volume. RSI is a little on the upside, right? But another thing, and this isn't the prettiest thing, you know, it's not something you want to talk about the next morning, just plain. But I can make two bullish cases for here, okay? Could potentially be, even though this trend line is upsloping, it's not the best. I could level it out maybe somewhere else, right? But you could definitely make case shoulder, head, shoulder, inverse head and shoulders, okay? You definitely make a case up and sideways consolidation that we're putting in bullish consolidation heading into earnings. Okay? You could also make the case cup and handle. Okay? Either way, I think this thing is bullish. Now, earnings, net margin. I'm all about that net, baby. Up and up and up and up and up. You know what that means? They're getting more and more profitable. They're keeping more for every dollar they make, which is fantastic. Okay? And where's gold been? The price of gold, the price of silver, the price of copper. I mean, we are in a natural resource, like a rare earth war with China, right? Newmont is probably going to capitalize on that. Plus, they pay a little dividend, 1.72%. Nothing to write home about again. But maybe inverse head and shoulders, maybe a cup and a little handle, bull flag setup heading into earnings for a pop. Just maybe. Okay. Now, what are some targets, Corey? Well, if this is inverse head and shoulders, looking at about a $27, $28 move. $27, $28 move takes us back up, I believe, to all-time highs. Yep. Would take us back up here, which I believe was the all-time high. Really close. Yeah, it's the all-time high. Would take us back to this all-time high. Okay. Now, just this cup and handle pattern. I'm actually going to switch to the daily, get off the weekly because there's a gap there you can't see. Right? But this cup and handle pattern is about a $22 move. And that would take us, I believe, up to the gap. That's like $17.50, maybe a little bit higher. You know, takes us up around here. So obviously this gap would be resistance, and then this little juncture right in here, and ultimately this gap at 85.25. I like Newmont Mining. I think it's a buy into earnings. Or you wait and see, right? You wait and see. If this pops out, guess what this line becomes? Support. Then you'd buy on the retrace to this line here. Around probably about 61, 62 bucks. But Newmont Mining is probability-wise a buy into earnings. Okay? Not financial advice, but I'm just showing you the data. And with that, I yield you your time. I hope if you made it this far, God bless your soul. Please give me a like. Please leave a comment. Just, hey, could you do technical analysis or look at this stock for me? And I will make a quick couple-minute video instead of an hour video for you. And I'd be happy to do that. And with that, God bless you. I am leaving on Monday, so I'm not going to be around for a couple weeks. There's going to be no Jesus Before Money. And I need to get back to my Bible videos. I've been struggling with that. I've been too much in the money, too much in the world, and Jesus has been, I've just been hearing God kind of say, hey, it's time. So I'll start making more videos there. I just wanted to try to educate people financially. And it prepares me because I am trying to professionally trade. I want to do this professionally. And I'm going to stop talking. So God bless you. Please leave a like and a comment, and I will see you on the next one.